Got it. All right. So I put a photo. It's just a little snip from one of the many manuals that shows the field.
Okay.
That way
Or
people,
you
yeah.
want,
So
we can
hopefully
share
everyone
it PDF too if you want.
can. I mean, this should be enough. I mean, everything else they can download. This is just so they have something as I'm talking that I'll be referring to.
Well, and I'm looking at like Hillary and Ryan, you've already done your test, so you're good there. Venom has not yet.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Cool. It's a toughie, Venom. I don't know, every year it gets okay, which questions are they going to change this year?
Yeah, there's a right answer too that I don't like.
Which right answer?
So that they don't touch anything after, so when they're after randomization that they don't touch anything. It's something along those lines. And I'm like, but they do. They have one touch to start autonomous.
Right.
And the
There was
question
one
is
I
like,
didn't like.
they don't touch anything. And I'm like, well, that's, I mean, like I knew what they were going for.
The one I struggled a little bit with was the one about the mosaic. If they remove a pixel or descore a pixel and descore a mosaic because of the pixel, I guess. It's still only 2 minors, but I struggled to find that answer anywhere in the instructions.
Oh, it is yeah, I want to say it's in probably game specific.
Yeah, I looked all over for, a second descoring a mosaic. You know how you do Control F and then you try and find stuff, and I couldn't.
Were you looking in game manual 2 or ref and head ref?
I was looking in both, so I would look in both of them, see if I could find where it was referenced.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in the ref head ref manual.
Anybody else on the call remember where it is? Okay. So for the folks who are on the call, I see your face, Ryan. So yes, I'll recognize you on Saturday, Sunday, whenever. And you're going to be head reffing also, right, Ryan? Saturday at least, or Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah, no, I believe that's true. Yeah, that sounds right.
It always is a guessing game until you get there anyway. So it's like, okay, who wants to do this? Who's here? Things happen like COVID and stuff like that. So, and the rest of you, so Max, have you shown your face yet? Just so people know who you are. Does everybody?
I haven't here.
Max will be the super head ref. He's going to be kind of rotating between fields and helping us make sure everything is hunky-dory. And then it looks like we're going to have full crews for both days. Dan keeps saying it's going to be 7-minute rounds, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, it is definitely interesting, the format that they decided to go with.
Yeah, and especially that Jay's not going to be there the first day. That will be especially interesting. So
even wearing my last year's t-shirt.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I think we were expecting more people, right? Should we?
Yeah, we were expecting a few more people, but we can either wait a few more minutes or we can just go ahead and get started. I'm recording it and I'll send it out to everybody after.
Okay. I think in that case, I'll go ahead and get started.
Okay. All right.
Reward everyone who got here on time. Referee training for the SD region. I guess not. This isn't 11-12. This is 11-14, but our presentation was for that. So this is everything that I'm kind of going to go over. First, I'll talk a little bit about our general role. What we do. Basically, right, the ref role, except for the head ref, is just observe and report, right? We're all a bunch of extra eyes, extra scoring. Some people, they get a little nervous when they're asked to ref. They think they're, calling all the cards and assessing all the penalties. And there's a team of us, right? There's 5 on each field. We work together. We huddle. Take no lip. Listen and explain. Don't debate. the box. What I mean by that is when we're adjudicating stuff on the field during the match, they should not be talking to the ref, telling the ref what to do. It's the first meet. I know we have a lot of new teams, so we'll probably initially there'll be some warnings to remind them. But after that, we can start assessing penalties, and it's a reasonable thing to do. They need to learn not to talk back to the refs. At the end, when they have a question, I'm all about us giving them, the simple answer, but that's kind of just like a one-to-one thing. They ask, a simple one-line question. We give them a simple answer. There's no debate. If they want to debate, which is totally fine, right? That's part of everything. Then they got to go to the box. They send one representative. Hopefully they bring their rule book, so we have something specific that we can talk about. And I'll be going to all of the box stuff. If for some reason, like I was late and coming over from one match to the other, I might drag the head ref, the head/lead ref over as well, but I should be able to handle those. Ref huddle, right? So we will huddle probably like 9 a.m.-ish, depending on the schedule, just to kind of see who all is there, make sure everybody showed up, kind of assign our roles for the day, talk about any conflicts people might have, that kind of stuff. Then the driver meeting happens a little bit later. I'll talk more about this. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. Then I'm going to go over the gameplay. Each of the different stages, there's different things they're trying to do, and then different rules that are kind of engaged and different things that we really need to watch as a ref crew. We're playing a little bit of a guessing game. We have some info from other regions who've already had games or done scrimmages. But this is going to be the first weekend, so a lot of it's new. But as the season goes, we'll definitely get that down a little better. We'll talk about pregame, then the autonomous is the first phase, followed by driver control, which has 2 phases, the main game and then the end game, different goals during those 2. And then post game, what we do kind of at the end. And then we'll talk a little bit summary. We get some support. Don't forget the uniform. It's fun. And of course, lunch. You get fed because you're a ref. It's a long but very rewarding day's work, at least I find. So pregame. When you get there, you want to do a couple things. Gear up. So get a ref uniform. It's a good old zebra striped shirt. Or you can be like Mary and own your own. But they do launder them in between meets, so they will be clean. They shouldn't smell terribly bad. Safety glasses. Safety glasses are provided, or you can bring your own. I know Mary had a bunch of glass side shields. I know I have my own pair, which I do need to find before this weekend, because that way then I can keep my safety glasses on the whole time. We're modeling good behavior. We want to make sure we all have them, as well as all of the participants who come up for a match need to have their safety glasses on. Get a coffee or juice or whatever. Locate the break room. These are important things to know for the whole day. Also, where the bathroom is. Maybe even go to the bathroom before our day starts, because once we get started, there's not a lot of time for breaks until the lunch break and the end of the day. So something to keep in mind. As I said, I'll do a ref meeting, kind of 9 a.m.-ish. Kind of review of the rules, what my points of emphasis are. We find like there's different main rules that they have to worry about as the season progresses, as the robots start to do more and more and more, and as the kids learn the game better. Some of the simple things they don't have to. Like the first weekend, it's always going to be safety, all the safety rules, the human player, getting used to that. We'll go over as I said, any conflicts, field assignments. Now that's the time for any questions that refs have, whether it's a gameplay thing, where the bathroom is, all that stuff. Then there will be a driver meeting. It's good for all the refs to attend that, just because you'll hear what the kids are worried about and or what strategies they've come up with and want to double check to make sure things are legal. I'll give that talk. We'll do a Q&A from the kids. And then that's all kind of pregame. Then the next time we're needed is when the first match is ready to begin. So for each of the matches, kind of go through these four or 5 stages. We have setup, autonomous, first half of driver control, second half of driver control, and then I guess post-match. So call it the 5 phases. So setup. When they set up the robot, it has to be within the 18-inch box. So if they set down their robot and we're seeing things pop out, that shouldn't happen. What can be outside of the 18 inches is game scoring elements. So the pixels or the drone can be outside of that box. The one thing to know about the drone, it must stay in its inspected state. And I have a feeling this weekend that will probably come up. It sounds like from talking with some of the coaches and mentors, kids, they're trying to almost get around it. I think they're still learning the rules. So however that drone got inspected is how it has to stay all throughout, being held by the robot and being launched by the robot. So like if they have, your basic paper airplane and they wanted to fold it flat and load it, that would be violating that, and that drone would not score. So if they do some deformation to the drone, it's not a penalty per se, but the drone won't be able to score. Do you have a question, Ryan? Or you just
No, sorry about that.
No worries.
Defense with the cat. Sorry about that.
Oh, that I understand. No worries. All right. So as I said, and then delays, especially when they're setting up, those can be minors and or cards, depending on what they do. So once the team is ready, that means they're like, we're good to go. We're not going to touch our controller until the one press button to start autonomous. If once they've all said they're good to go and they touch them, if they start early or late, those are minor penalties. Once they're ready, we will randomize. So the team element, I don't have it to show you, but if you look at that picture of the field, right? So we've got these little stripes. The team element will be set down. If this little cursor were my team element and we moved it, it would stay in the orientation it was relative to the field. So we don't rotate it at all. We just shift it to one of these three spots. And that is what they should expect. There's no for them, they can't touch it, they can't ask us to adjust it. We do our best to keep it in the same orientation and move it to the proper stripe. Also, when they're putting their robot on the field, they should not be touching any of the game elements in the field. If they see something that looks off, they can say something to one of the refs and we can adjust it for them and make sure it's how it should be, but they should not be adjusting the field themselves. Field awareness. So this is for us. So the field is kind of bigger this year, right? Because we have the basic field, but then we have the landing zone, and then the side zones are of course important. And these backboards, they kind of spill over, so you have to be aware of them. We do not want to knock into these at all. If we were to do so, and it did anything that we believe might or could have had impact to the outcome of that match, we have to replay the match. And I don't think anyone wants to do that. So the best is to never knock into them. If you get lucky and you hit one and nothing falls, or there was barely anything on it and the score is obvious, but even then, let's hope to just totally avoid that. And then the other thing, if you're in this end zone, which definitely I know will apply to me, I know I like to ref from back here. Once it hits end game, you want to get out of the way, because if that drone launches, if it is to hit you, you're 30 points. But I also would rather us not get hit, right? So because we shouldn't be there at all. Even if we're there and we don't hit it, we could easily, just our wind movement could really adjust the flight of that airplane. And we'd like to, not cause that. I believe in our setup in week 1, part of the field is going to be blocked by a wall. So it doesn't quite fit. You'll see when we're there, and we're going to tape it. And if you hit inbounds on the wall, it will score for that zone. I'll explain it to the kids. It'll be pretty obvious, but it's super important. We'll go over again later in endgame to watch the whole flight of the airplane. So our first phase is autonomous. After we've randomized, I'll then do a countdown to the scorekeeper, 3, 2, 1, go. Then there'll be that starting horn. They push the beginning of autonomous, robots start moving, and we are playing the game. So the robot goals during autonomous this year: place a purple pixel on a specific stripe. So that's one of the 3 stripes. Then place the yellow pixel on the blackboard in a specific in either column 1 and 2, 2 and 3, or 3 and 4. They have the little April tag to tell them. Getting pixels in the backstage, of course, as many as possible. And then parking in the backstage. A legal park is just crossing that tape. They don't have to be fully in. There really isn't enough room. So if you look at it, as long as this is the backstage area for blue, the backstage area for red. One thing to know, so during autonomous, this is the red side of the field, right? These 3 tiles. This is the blue side of the field, these 3 tiles. This little part down the middle, that's the neutral zone. It's very thin. Robots make contact in the neutral zone. It's kind of nothing done. But if you're to one side or the other, if you're in the red side, blue is making illegal contact because they are in red side of autonomous. They need to stay on their own side during autonomous. If they do go into autonomous and they're lucky, like a blue robot goes kind of crazy, he goes into blue and then leaves, and he makes no contact with any of the robots, makes no contact with any of the scoring pixels, he's lucky, right? He put himself at risk, but no penalty. Any interference with any of the robots becomes minor penalties for each instance. If he were to go and knock down, say he knocks over a stack of pixels, which is a legal thing to do, but he's a blue robot, he did it on red side during autonomous. Now, if neither red robot ever comes over to those pixels, then that blue robot got lucky. There's nothing done. It's no penalty. But if any of the red robots were to come over to pick up a pixel, then for each infraction of that, that's a minor penalty because blue interfered with these pixels that they should not be going over and touching for red to score. Kind of one of the exceptions we have. So the blue wing is here and the red wing is here. During autonomous, a blue robot can go in the red wing and there's really no penalty. As long as by the end of autonomous, they're out of it, then there's no problem. If they were to start in it, they would have to immediately leave and it would be at least one minor penalty for being in an area that they're not supposed to be. But again, if they get out of it during autonomous, they're clear. So what to watch, right? There should be minimal robot to robot interaction. The neutral stacks on controlled sides, right? If the wrong person goes into them, definitely have to watch out for that. Otherwise, the scoring is pretty easy. Probably this first weekend, there might be not a lot done. More will get done as we keep going. Any questions about autonomous? Take that as a no. I'll keep going. All right. So driver control. So at this point, so autonomous ended. We tell the players to get ready for driver control. There's, I think it's like 10 or 8 seconds in between. There'll be a quick countdown. They pick up their controllers. They're all ready. Nobody moves their robot until driver control begins. And we're good to go. They're going to try to score pixels and create mosaics. So there's rules that we have to worry about. So right of way through the middle. So right of way is heading from the front stage to the back stage. Those robots are to be given the right of way. There is room for 2 robots to pass through. So if I'm one robot and I'm sitting here, as long as robots can pass through the other side, it wouldn't be considered blocking. But if me and my alliance buddy are both in the front here and someone comes, then we would be blocking them. Also, you cannot grasp the stage door. It should always be open for people to lift it and raise it. You shouldn't have your robot in contact on top, keeping it down. That would also be impeding, would also be a minor penalty. So the wings and the backstage are protected area. So the red wing, which is here, and the red protected area, only the red robots can go in. For a blue robot to go in and interfere or descore, there's that initial minor penalty for being where they shouldn't, and then all that interference, all that descoring, it can add up rather quickly. As Mary was talking about in pregame, right? So I descore a tile. If that also descores a mosaic, it's 2 minors, not just 1, but it would be 1 minor for every tile that you descore. So those could definitely add up, but there's really no reason for the robot to be in there. Or if I'm a blue robot and I'm sitting in front of the backstage and red robot comes along and I'm blocking his entrance, that's another way where I could get it. Although it is a big area and I can sort of go around, there definitely will be robots moving back and forth. So as long as they're in movement and trying to get somewhere, it should be okay, but that's probably going to be the trickiest part, I think, of this game for us. There's a lot of cross traffic, right? You've got red's wing and red's human players over here, but this is the blue side. Same thing for blue. Their stuff is on the other side. In those wings, it's a maximum of 6 pixels that can be in the wing. And no matter how those 6 pixels got there, the human player has to respect the limit. So if the other team accidentally pushes a pixel in, so it's an initial minor for putting that pixel in an area it shouldn't be, but then it is an additional major because it's a G29 which is using gameplay for an illegal use, right? Because basically you're impeding on their strategy on how many pixels they want, what color the pixels, what different color pixels they want. And it's so if I moved 2 pixels in at the same time, it would be 1 G29 and then 2 minors, 1 minor for each pixel, and then the G29 major for interfering with their gameplay. So they definitely need to be careful if they're picking up neutral pixels over by the opposing team's wing, to not push them in the wing. And then even their own wing. They don't want to bring extra pixels over to their own wing. The human player, we can all count to 6. It's going to be rough and tough, but they have to remember to do that. Right, yeah, so I talked a lot about the 6 pixels. Watching a robot on robot, the human player safety, right? So they can put in 2 pixels or 1 drone. They cannot put in 1 pixel and 1 drone at a time. Hopefully they won't get into doing that. Also with the drones, each team should bring 1 drone to the field. So that they should, but back at their pit, they should have plenty of spare drones, both red and blue, but make sure to only bring 1 of whatever alliance they are in. They can preload that, or it can be loaded by the human player anytime during driver control that can be put out, but they can't launch their drones until endgame. If there is a misfire of a drone early and it lands somewhere outside the field, then field personnel can and will go pick up that drone and bring it to whatever human player. So if it was the red team misfired early, it would be brought to the red team's human player, and then that human player could put it out in the wing for the robot to come and get. But mind you, it has to be the robot who misfired it who's going to get that drone. Of course, they also have to have the ability, but it is a rule, and it is what we will be doing for any of the early misfires. I think so. I think that's pretty much everything, right? They're going to be doing during driver control. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. Hopefully, that anyone can kind of almost go anywhere. But if you're red, you want to stay away from blue's backdrop, and you want to try to stay away from their wing, even though you're going to be kind of passing around and getting close. It might be a little chaotic with the human players being across. I am very interested to see what strategies they come up with. Expect a lot of yelling. Hopefully they will keep it calm and within good gameplay standards. All right. So the end of driver control, right, is our exciting end game. During end game, they can continue to score pixels. This is when they can launch their drone. And then parking, they have 2 options. They can go backstage and park again, or they can try to do the hanging or suspended park. Rules that govern this. So launching the drone. So the drone's flight path starts when it leaves contact with the robot. It must have started behind the truss and go over the truss. It must stay below 5 feet and above the wall and go into the scoring zones. So if while it's above the wall, it hits a robot of its own alliance, well, you should get out of the way for your own team's plane. Nothing done. Plane doesn't score. It's now on the field. If you can go pick it up and launch again, you're free to. If it were to hit, say it's a red airplane, and it hits a blue alliance robot, and that contact is made above the wall, so it's going to be a little tricky, and of course come down to our judgment. Above the wall is then 30 points for that drone. It's considered an automatic perfect landing because it was interfered with by the other team. Yep. So really, there's going to be a lot of, we really need to watch that flight path and see where the drones go and where the drones end up. And also to remind you, if you're in the landing zone area, once you hit endgame, you want to get out of the way. So it can be launched. We had a big discussion about this. It can be launched from a hanging robot, but you're kind of increasing your degree of difficulty too, because while you're hanging, if you let it go and part of that airplane is already past the top of the truss, then your drone, pardon me, not airplane, has launched from an illegal position and would be worth 0 points. So if they are launching it that way, they definitely have to know how they're doing it. Hanging. So they can only start their operation of hanging once endgame begins. Now, that definition of start is once they make contact with the truss, then they have started trying to hang on the truss. If they do that early, they have to, in a clear and unambiguous way to the refs, pull all the way back and restart their entire process. This was definitely a point of discussion during the live training, and I can understand it will be confusing, but they have to understand, they have to be clear. If it looked to us like they started before endgame, then it doesn't count. They started that endgame action early. All endgame actions have to be completely done in endgame. For that suspension to be considered a valid suspension, they only need to be holding onto that bar and lifted off the ground for a moment between the beginning of the horn and the end of the horn. So they don't have to maintain it all the way through, right? Like coming to rest, they don't have to do any of that, but it has to happen sometime during the horn. They have to have it. So if a team, so they start doing a little bit in end game with some pixels, then they go, so they're well into end game. They go to hang, they reach up, they grab it, they pull themselves up, and then they set themselves down, and then the horn goes off. Well, they're not hanging during the proper period. It wouldn't be valid. So once they lift themselves up, they have to either stay lifted or be able to re-lift themselves up during that horn period for it to be a valid hanging. And again, backstage parking is just crossing the tape. What to watch. So I talked a lot about the drone launch path, and that's super important. The other thing to know is for where these hanging bars are, where the yellow bar is not considered a valid path. And what that means is, say I'm a red robot and I'm sitting here and blue comes over to go hang on this during red game. That's an immediate block. That's an immediate major penalty. And I'm starting my 5-second countdown for additional minors. Even though he's only blocking one path, and like these other paths exist for the hanging thing, they consider this one path to be the only valid path. So if you're red, you don't ever want to block here or block there during end game, because you could get a blocking penalty very easily. It's not like our normal, hey, you're sitting here, and while they wanted to go through where you are, they have other routes to get where they're going, so it's not an actual block. In this case, for the hanging bars, this is a game exception rule, and it can become a block pretty fast. So that is definitely something to watch and be aware of during endgame. Any questions about endgame? All right, I'm guessing because we have a smaller group.
So where is the valid landing area for the drones or airplanes?
So for the drones, this is the landing zone, these 3 tapes. So zone 1 is anywhere here or touching or touching this. So this tape or back, that's all zone 1. If I have just a little bit of my plane in zone 1, then I'm considered in zone 1 for scoring. We always score to the higher achieved goal. So if the plane is sitting like right here and it's touching both zone 1 and zone 2, it's considered a zone 1 score. If it's completely in zone 2, it would be zone 2. Same thing here for zone 3, etc. Any landing outside here to the right or to the left, that's 0 points. But we will, like I said, we can return the drone to the basically right here to the little pot. So if the blue drone landed here, we could return it there. Field personnel should be doing that. So basically our field resetter, they shouldn't ever rush or run. The team shouldn't count on that person doing it very fast. It's more so like if it's something that happens before end game, it might provide you a second shot during end game, but probably not. So they shouldn't really count on it. And again, and if it goes past all of this, then it's just outside of bounds.
So it has to go over those red or blue bars, right?
Correct. Wherever they launch it from back here, it has to go over the top of the truss in whatever flight path they pick.
I see. Also, where do the scorekeepers stand around the field?
Yes. So anywhere we want. There's been a lot of discussion of that, and I know, especially our first meet, it's going to be a little scrunchied. Some might want to stand like here and here almost, or here and here. Classically, we've had our scorekeepers and maybe even the other ref stand up here, and I usually like standing in the front. but we can be anywhere we want, but it is really limited, and we do have to watch out for these. I've been told standing in the middle here is also kind of a good place, or just to the right or left of these. We will be able to, once game is done, we can stand right here on the field and look at here to count everything. So they're scoring for all the pixels they have on here, all the mosaics they form, and also these lines. So if they have a mosaic crossing this line, they get a 1-line score. If it's crossing the second one, then they score for both lines, and the third line they would score for all three. So the higher the pixels are, they score more as well. The rules for the mosaics themselves, right? So a mosaic is achieved by 3 colored pixels touching each other. So each pixel has to touch the other 2. They're either all the same color or each a different color. So you can't have 2 purples and a yellow would be invalid, but a green, a purple, and a yellow is good. They can only be bordered by white pixels. You don't have to have a white pixel completely around them, as long as it's not another colored pixel that's touching them for it to be a valid mosaic. Those should be easier to kind of discuss at the end. So yeah, standing is definitely going to be tricky, especially for this first meet. You'll see when we get there, it's going to be some tight spaces, but hopefully we'll find good places to be. Any other questions at this point?
So also, where do the robots start?
So the robot squares that they start. So for red, they'll start in this square and this. I'm sorry. Yeah, this square and this square, basically the ones facing where the 3 strikes, the 3, they call them strike tapes are. So here, and then this guy will start here and here. They can start preloaded with up to 2 pixels and 1 drone, or they can start loaded with nothing. That's up to them.
I have a question about the gameplay. So I've never seen a robotics competition live. Are there any YouTube videos that I could watch for reference to look out for what gameplay actually looks like?
Definitely. There might even be some. I meant to kind of look before this training, but I didn't.
Let me look. Let me look right now.
Yeah, there might be some good, even center stage ones with this game, but there are definitely tons upon tons of first videos out there of FTC competitions. Although bringing up video is a good reminder. So when we are reffing a match, and they might be like, oh, that was definitely blocking. And we're like, it's like, it didn't look like that to us. And they go, oh, well, here's this video of the match. Immediately be like, I'm sorry, you know the rules, refs, there is no instant replay in FTC. We don't look at videos of the matches. We don't look at pictures of the matches, none of that. The only thing we look at for a reference is the rule book and our memories. It's definitely good to call more refs over. I mean, while I will usually powwow with the refs on one side for the penalties on those robots, sometimes we'll bring all 5 of us, we'll powwow all together. What did everybody see? We even sometimes ask the students what they saw. I know I've had times where we had very few refs, unfortunately, and we had to do that. And the students are usually very good, I would say, our region especially, about being honest as to what happened or what they saw. A lot of times I find they are very focused on their own robot. So like last season when simultaneous scoring was allowed, I think they often felt interfered with, but they didn't realize, well, that other robot had a cone and was trying to score as well. And so they often don't look at those things. I try to explain them everything as best I can, tell them what rules I'm using to make my decision. I am sure I will get something wrong this first meet. Already in training, a couple of things had been brought up to me and I thought it was one way, and then we found it was the other way. We went through the rules and lo and behold, I had missed something. There are a lot of rules. I'm trying to learn them very well, but we're all going to make some mistakes. So I think Mary's still maybe looking for a video for you. So let's talk a little bit about post game. So the score recap, we have in the past let them look at their scoring to make sure. This one is pretty simple, and hopefully we'll have less mistakes. And we'll be able to do that scoring, I think, right at the end. Last game, one of the advice I gave the scoring ref, so that meaning the ref with the tablet, was to kind of keep track as we go. This one, I think it will be a lot easier to look at the mosaic, to look at the backboard count everything up at the end, look at the backstage, count everything up at the end. The only thing to really make sure you're doing as we go is that autonomous score, because you will have to do that within that little 8 to 10 second period. You want to put in the autonomous score. It'll be easier in earlier weeks as less is done during autonomous, but the scoring it's pretty well broken down. Like, did they do something? Yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, and then how many pixels are in both places. So we'll do a little huddle. If we think we saw anything that we need to give a penalty for, we'll huddle and review. Maybe we decide, so there's a rule called GS10, which is inadvertent and inconsequential. So it's like, hey, they did this thing they're not supposed to do, but it was definitely inadvertent, and I don't think it affected the score of the other robots. So it ends up usually just becoming a warning that they've engaged in not in dangerous or unsafe play, but in like play that's opening themselves up to a penalty, where like, hey, if the other team had been more aggressive, you might, or had been able to do more, you might have gotten a penalty for this kind of behavior. So it's things for them to watch, also things for them to learn. I had a team once start autonomous late on purpose, and I gave them a penalty, and they're like, what's this penalty for? And I'm like, you started autonomous late. And they're like, yeah, so? And I'm like, well, that's a penalty. And they were like, really? And I'm like, yes, really. So sometimes there's some learning. It was even kind of a veteran. And again, questions from the kids in this period to help keep things moving. They're just nice and simple. It's a simple question and answer. Anything more, we tell them to go to the box. When it's time to reset and clear, and this will probably leave, since we're having head refs on each of the fields, for the head ref to determine. So once everyone is good with their scoring and they've submitted it, then the head ref can be like, field is clear, come on the field and retrieve your robots. One thing that I don't think I mentioned it early, but there is a safety rule this year called GS13. So this truss, when the kids are going on or off the field to retrieve their robots, they are not to step over the truss. This is something hopefully we can model. While it's not a penalty on us if we do it, I'd like us to try not to do it. I was even debating bringing candy, and if the kids point it out when we do, I'll reward them for snitching, although I'm not sure I want to reward snitch behavior, but trying to make it a little fun somehow. So be aware the kids shouldn't be stepping over it, and neither should we, right? I mean, you hook your foot on the truss on accident and you face plant. A, that's not going to feel good, and B, like, it could cause damage to both whoever face plants and to it could be very, very bad. So I kind of understand why they have that. Big people like me are like, well, that's easy to step over, but we want to model proper behavior. So we want to be aware, especially when they're coming on the field and off the field. Might even be good to remind them for the first couple matches until everyone really does get it in their heads to remember it. Yep, and that was my reminder. The G13, wait for the head ref. Once they're clear, field resetters can start to reset. So once the 4 robots have been retrieved, then it's good to go ahead and call the next teams that they are ready to place their robots. They should just be placing them in those squares. Another thing that was suggested is the pixels for preload. So it'll be 2 purple and 2 yellow. If they're placed on the driver, like they have their little stands for their controllers and whatnot. If they're placed there, it makes it really easy for them to take the pixels that they need to take, and those pixels come from this storage stash. So that way, either they take the pixels and they load them, or if they don't, it gives field reset and field personnel plenty of time to move them from there to there during autonomous, so they're ready for those human players. Or actually, I should say from here to there and from here to there. So they do have to cross. So it is good that field personnel is doing that.
So
it gives time initially to walk across here.
I did find one video so far that's of actual play versus the animation. So let me share that.
Okay. We are through my whole presentation.
You can take it back in a second.
I will stop sharing.
All right. Let me make sure.
Mary can take
sound. Not that we really need the sound. Where are you?
I'm curious to see this.
Share sound. Okay. That does not sound like sound shared. Huh. Let me see. Share sound. Maybe if I go back into it, it'll work. No. Hmm. And it was working just before, so let's see. I don't know why the sound
You
working.
gotta, this was last year's game, Power Play.
Is it? Oh, that's it said center stage. I
Yeah,
wasn't.
it did. Yeah, this is center stage right here.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right, let's try this.
Okay.
Let's. Oh. My volume is on. No. And it just was on. That's amazing.
Well, you can at least watch it a little bit if you want to hit play.
Yeah, let's just watch it.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to. Oh, it looks like they recorded their entire meet, which is 3 hours worth. Might want to go forward a little bit.
We won't watch the entire meet. Let me let Andrew in. But I thought there was one that was like 3, 2, 1. He had already said 3, 2, 1. Now I got to find the.
Find a good spot.
No, it's not a good spot. Let's see.
Yeah. The other thing too, I mean, you can just do what I'm sure Mary did, which is go to YouTube and then type in what's our center stage FTC, and you'll probably get at least a couple of videos. At least that one that she found, I'm sure you'll be able to find real quick.
Let me see if I
Yeah,
can
I'll check
get
it out. Thank you.
to the point. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay. Hang on.
Yep. Let's see if we see it.
I'm going to share it. So give me a second.
So yeah, so they're going. Plus you can see like one robot is just sitting there. So we'll see a little bit of that.
This is autonomous, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Why is that kid touching his stuff?
Oh no, they should. Oh no, they're in driver control.
Okay.
If you look at the clock, they are in driver control.
Oh, so this is different. This is not up on the stand. It's down on a little. Their controllers are on a little bench, or is that just?
Oh yeah, I see that. Yeah, I like our stands. I've seen the stands in a lot of places. Can we try to get to the beginning of the match? Because yeah, they're definitely in driver control. It looks like their robot isn't even doing anything. That's a shame.
Let's see where we're at here.
So they're setting up. So the guy with the cowboy hat should be field reset because he was making sure all the stacks are stacked. So you see how there's that one red kind of like ball on the lower right on that strike? Yeah, so that's a team element. Whereas the other 3 teams, they didn't supply one, so they just have a white pixel is telling them, we'll tell them which stripe. So it starts as a white pixel. Hopefully they all replace it. They really should all have team elements, but it is the first meet, so some won't.
And there's no, I mean, the only thing that they tell them is your team element isn't supposed to look like any of the other elements, right? If the one you create isn't supposed to look like a pixel, it's not supposed to look like a drone.
Yeah, correct. I believe it has to be all one color. I think I'm not 100% sure on the rules.
And they're supposed to be inspected.
Correct.
So they should be inspected by the field inspector, but
by the time they get to us, it should be clear. But
we saw some weird things coming in last year, I think.
Yeah, I didn't like the team element rules last year, especially when they realized some of the difficulty. Some teams, the team element, it was a capping element, and they'd be really small and hard to see. And they left it up to like, well, if it's small, but the refs see it, you're okay. But if the refs don't see it, then it's whatever the refs do or do not see. So it kind of put a little pressure on us that I was like, can't you just fix the rule? But
Yeah.
sometimes they like to leave it up to us, which is kind of both good and bad. So it looks like he's making sure everyone is ready.
And one of the things we like to do is thumbs up. So everybody's going to get, show us a thumbs up, refs. And I'm going to, we'll look to everybody to do that.
Yep.
And the teams themselves, that they're ready.
Like someone clarifying. So that is one of the rules. So if those white pixel stacks, if they're knocked over, it's completely legal. If they are pushed off the tape, then it is a penalty. It would be a minor penalty, I believe, for each pixel pushed off. So it's kind of funny. Yeah, you can be super sloppy, but you can't just slide them off.
A lot of discussion about that yesterday.
Yeah.
So one question, for example, the red side, they can go under any of those two red trusses and the one on their side. So there are three I don't know, ways that they can cross under that trusses, right?
During autonomous, absolutely correct. During driver control and endgame, they can go under any truss that they want that's clear. Except really during endgame, they have to be careful not to block the opposing team from their own hanging trusses. So red shouldn't block blue from the blue trusses, and blue shouldn't block red. But during that 130 of just open driver control, they can pretty much drive wherever they want.
I see. And blocking means if they go there and stop, stay there. But if they're passing, that's fine, right?
So yeah, so if they're just moving around, it's not blocking. Also blocking, so for it to be a valid block, except for that exception I talked about during endgame, you have to completely block them from being able to get to where they want to go. So like there could be blocking in front of the wings because one robot could do that. But if I'm on like the right side of that middle 2-lane highway and I'm just sitting there and a robot comes up because he wants to go that area, it's not a block if he has another path to go where he wants to go. So he could just go around me, right? Because he's got that other side to still go. So blocking can sometimes be a little confusing both for the kids and for us to call.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if they're ever going to
You can kind of see where they're standing too, where the refs are standing over there, the striped shirts.
Yeah, that's very, I thought of that would be a nice area to both see those blackboards and also the landing zone for the drone, and that seems to be, and then not interfere with anyone.
All right, thumbs up, getting off the field. Probably 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, they got to randomize first.
Yeah.
Did they do that already, or?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Sometimes you randomize and it doesn't move anywhere, right? Because it is one of the stripes. Oh, here they go. So you got the clock. It's my first time seeing all the different graphics.
Okay. Yeah, on the bottom there. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have 2. Okay, yeah, 2:30.
And scorekeepers will have iPads, right? Like previous years,
Yep.
Yeah, they're little tablets, but we don't have to support Apple everywhere.
Oh yeah. So, I think it was Amazon Fire or something.
Probably. Yeah, actually, I think a bunch of them are like Fire Sticks or whatever. Fire something. So that horn was the autonomous beginning, as you can see. So it looks like the one team that made an element is doing some autonomous, and they just drove to the back and parked, which is not bad. They dropped off a pixel, but if you see where that pixel is, it's not touching the stripe at all. So it does not score.
It has to be touching.
Yeah, for the stripe score, it somehow has to break the surface of that tape.
Drivers, pick up your controllers.
All right,
3,
so now they're getting
2,
ready.
1.
And driver control commences. So everyone should be driving. You got the humans are placing pixels on there, kind of however they want. You do notice when they place them and they set them down, they can't move them again. Looks like the blue human is placing them in sets of 2 and they're stacked, which is totally fine.
On the pixel placement, can the pixel extend beyond the red line towards the field as long as it's touching the red line?
Absolutely. Yeah. They cannot be placing them if there's a robot in the wing. Hopefully the robots will give them a little bit of space too.
We did have that a couple years ago. I don't remember which one it was where they were reaching in and then placing on a pole or something. Maybe it was last year's. And if that robot's hand has broken the plane coming in there, you cannot be placing. And a lot of kids were not getting that early on.
Yeah. They also can't rearrange them once they place them on the field. So like, see that robot in the red wing, he's moving them all around. Which is fine. He can make contact and as long as he's only knocking 1 or 2, because they can control 2, he's not violating anything. He doesn't have control. He knocked that over. That's totally fine. So that was the horn for endgame. So now someone might try to launch a drone. I think that one does have one, but no, he's not going to try to launch it. Or maybe he is.
And it doesn't look like anybody's hanging.
Yeah, no one's hanging, but we are going to have a drone launch. Uh-oh, wait, the right way, the wrong way? I don't know what he's doing. 7 seconds. No, you had it. What are you doing? So that launch is no good.
Because it didn't go over the top.
Exactly. It did not go over the top. So I don't know if they score it correctly or not. Yeah, this
if he was in that spot, or if that robot was in that spot and they could reach out from behind that red and come over the top of the red, just like they did with that one, that would be legit.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So if the flight path, so the moment the drone stops making contact with the robot is the beginning of the flight path. And as long as the entire drone is on the other side of that truss and then goes over it and lands where it landed, that would have been an awesome drone launch.
Okay, so if
can I ask a quick question before you go on? Because see the pixels on the left hand in the red wing, the 2 white pixels that are extending past the red into the field. If someone placed those, if the human player placed those, that would be acceptable, correct?
I think they are touching the red tape, and I would say yes. As long as they're touching the red tape, it's still in the wing.
Okay, but their hand probably cannot extend outside of the wing, is my guess.
Correct.
Okay.
And they have more than 6 pixels in their thing, so I'm not. What's
I don't know. I don't know when that happened. I wasn't paying close enough attention. But you're right. So they went over 6, and the question is when and how did that happen?
Oh, that's a good point. So if someone accidentally pushes them in from a pixel stack, for example,
So it depends a little bit. So if that's the red wing and a red robot pushed them in, then the only rule he would violate is having too many pixels. So it would be a minor for every pixel above 6 that he knocked in. It would not be a G. I don't think it would be a
G13. Is it?
like G29 or something, which is. But if he was a red robot and he knocked that pixel stack over, knocking the pixel stack is fine. But if 2 of them landed, if he's a red robot and 2 of them landed in blue, he'd get a minor for each pixel that he then effectively put in the wrong wing, and he would get a G29 for that action.
But so now, from a scoring standpoint, seeing what's on here, is there any score other than what they got in autonomous? Did they get any scoring for anything?
I don't know. I didn't see any. That was a very low scoring match.
on the backdrop. And isn't that the only place that it counts, is whatever's in the backdrop or the backstage?
So yeah, so pixels count for being on the backboard, you get 5 points, and or for just being in the backstage area, so that like taped rectangle with the little triangle on the end, you get 3 points for it being in there, and it just has to cross the tape again. So pixels in, so at the end, yeah, pixels in the backstage or on the backdrop. And then the more you have on the backdrop, you could have mosaics, you could cross those additional lines, you get additional bonus points.
So regarding the 6 pixels limit on the wings, so
Yes.
I mean, they have to be colored, or the white one also counts towards that limit, 6.
All pixels count. All pixels count the same when it comes to the wing. In fact, the only thing that the colors matter for is during autonomous. For scoring on the stripe, it has to be a purple pixel. For scoring on for the backdrop placement, when it has to do with those April tags, that has to be yellow. But the rest of the otherwise the colors don't matter, except when you're determining mosaics.
Right.
Because you need the various colors to create mosaics on the backdrop. Otherwise, yeah, all pixels count the same.
Yeah,
Okay.
and what would you can do 3 pixels of 3 different colors for a mosaic, or 3 pixels of all the same color,
Correct.
and none of them can be white. So you couldn't have like 2 green and a purple. But you'd have to have a yellow, a green, and a purple in order for that to count.
You also mentioned some white in between that just
Correct. So if I want to do multiple mosaics, I need white pixels can sit in between. They don't have to be there, but if a pixel is going to be in between 2 mosaics, then it needs to be white.
And they don't have to be perfectly aligned.
Correct. So they don't. So for a mosaic to be valid, it's just each pixel has to be touching the other 2 pixels, but they don't have. But like as you said, it doesn't have to be sitting perfect, but it has to be sitting well enough that it's touching both of them.
So
if
that
there's-
was all just that one qual match there that they
Yeah.
did.
So there were. So it looks like I think 2 of those. I
One
think
to
the penalties were 2 extras that got pushed into the wing. I think blue ended up pushing 2 pixels into the red wing.
what I didn't see was the autonomous, when they set up their autonomous and then went hit the button. I didn't see that. I saw them pick up their controllers for.
Yeah, no, they did. I think only one team did, because only one team had an autonomous.
Oh,
So
okay.
that might have been part of it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Everybody's outside the field. We just
Watch this. Yeah, I guess we can watch this match too.
either initialized. Yeah, let's just watch one more.
Okay.
See if maybe something scores. I would like to see something.
You want to see a little more action?
Yeah, just something. So that more than just whatever happens in autonomous. And
So it looks like when it showed that diagram, that was the randomization, and it left it in the center, which is why they didn't move anything. So it looks like he got a good score because he's got a pixel sitting where his team element was.
oh yeah.
And then he dropped his yellow also, and it's in the right place. So that is a very good beginning. Little violently hitting the end there. And I think it even went to park. So he just did 3 things very well in autonomous. He didn't try going to the other side of the trusses and getting more pixels, but
Drivers, pick up your controllers. 3, 2, 1.
Ooh.
yeah. So drivers are controlling. Probably we will, especially at the beginning, we'll want to have a ref assigned to watch each of the human players. We all kind of need to be aware of them. That is definitely where you could have some
Yeah. Well, and it's a good thing that we've got, oh, look at this guy over here doing like sign language or something in the corner.
Oh, that could be what he's using to negotiate. So see that? I think it's a blue robot. I can't tell. Oh no, it is a red robot. He's got a red square. So that robot with the blue claw does something that I hate when they do, which is have neutral parts of their robot be the wrong color.
Oh,
So
yeah.
those are both the red guys grabbing from the wing. Wow.
So I noticed that the robot that scored 1 pixel during autonomous, after the driver control,
Oh, he
it
moved it.
he knocked it down and put it back again. Does it count as the second one or?
So
Yeah, I think so.
so basically he descored it from the panel and then he put it back, which is totally fine because it's his own. He's a red robot working with pixels in the red backdrop, so it's all good. The only time that we check the score is at the end of autonomous and at the end of the game. So anything kind of in the middle, if he's moving stuff around, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't
Right,
matter.
we already counted it for autonomous.
Correct. It's also why you gotta be kind of on it with autonomous because that state changes. It'll be easier to score at the end because it's however it looks at the end. Also, whenever a robot parks, when it comes to rest, if it
Okay.
is touching any pixels in a scoring zone, those pixels don't score if they're its own zone.
Basically the pixels that were scored on during autonomous will also be recounted at the end, right?
Correct. That's the big advantage.
Yeah.
So little extra movement by that one robot, but it was inconsequential.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good job. The I think it was at the Red Alliance, at least one of the robots, he scored a whole bunch. I think he got 2 mosaics, but he didn't even hit the first tape, which I'm sure we'll get some stuff like that. Are there any more questions?
Well,
I'm
thank
gonna
you so
go
much.
ahead and put this in the chat, just in case you want to look at it again, Hillary, so you don't have to go searching for it.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending.
Thanks, Max.
Hey,
Definitely
Max,
less
I have a
questions. There'll
question.
be way less people.
Yep.
Oh, please.
What happened? What was the outcome of your research on the knocking over the stacks? You mentioned it
Yeah.
while we've been on this, and Mary had mentioned there was a lot of discussion about it at the refs.
So
what
your team's strategy of we want to knock over all the stacks and we can is completely valid. Doesn't matter where the stacks end up. It is all good. He totally clarified it.
It's not quite our strategy, but it was a thought.
Yeah.
Hey,
I mean, the only thing that they would have to be careful of is during autonomous, don't send your robot over to the other side and knock stacks.
Okay.
Because then you're interfering. Then if one of their robots goes to pick up at one of those stacks and has any issues, then you're going to get penalized for that interference.
What was the game? Do you know what was the game maker's rationale for this rule of if you move them off the line, it's a penalty, but if you go in and plow them over and knock them all down, it's not a penalty? Like, how did they get to that?
I have no idea. I have long since stopped trying to get in the heads of them. But if you want, at the next ref call, raise your hand and you can ask because the guy who does the answers for the ref call is on the game design committee.
yeah, Mark is usually really good about that.
Well, I just imagine they
I think
must
it's
be
weird.
thinking something. The only thing I can think of is that they think that a team may purposefully move the entire stack to give them an advantage in autonomous for the back and forth of cycling. And maybe they think that's the only thing I can think of as to why.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, definitely moving the whole stack, but moving the whole stack, like to me, I'm like, well, it's already covered, right? Because it's hurting if you're moving multiple pixels to gain an advantage. I guess it covers it once it gets down to 2. You still can't move them off the line, but you can knock them over. You can, and they can cover some serious distance when you knock them over. So. Yeah, I don't know, but I guess the one little exception is when you knock over the stack that's near the wing, you got to be careful that whatever goes in the wing, you have now placed in the wing, so you still have the 6 pixel limit, and if it's not your wing, you have that that limit as well. So that's also to be aware of.
And so as referees, okay, let's say, I'm trying to think. Blue team knocks pixels into red team's wing.
Yep.
And you had just called out what specific penalties those are.
So for within the action, so say they're trying to pick one up and they accidentally like throw it to the right and it goes in the wing.
Okay.
They put in 1 pixel, that's 1 minor. And putting a pixel in the opposing wing is also a G29. So it's 1 minor and 1 major. Okay. Let's say they knock the stack over and 2 pixels go into that wing. They would get a minor for each pixel and a major for the G29. The G29 is only assessed per like the action.
Okay.
So that would be 2 minors and a major.
So if I'm a scorekeeper, standing at the wing, I should be letting the head ref know that.
Definitely. In
That,
fact,
okay.
I would let everyone know that.
And we should let him know on the spot, not at
Oh,
the
yeah.
end of the game. Like it's got to happen then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely try to point those out when they happen, so we're all aware. And it would even in the first meet, we really do need to remind those human players they have to respect the 6 pixel limit, regardless of how 6 pixels got in that wing. It's not just, you can't have them say, well, I only placed 4, so I can place 2 more, but robots caused 3 more pixels to be there, so there's 7. Like they can't continue to place pixels until it gets below 6.
Well, see, I'm just thinking if you don't call the penalty right away, then again, blue knocked it into red. Okay. And now red robot comes in and he's just clearing out pixels. Then they've now missed the opportunity to get points from a penalty that the other team caused. Because they're just going to keep cycling out those pixels.
Yeah, no, and I agree. We need to call it immediately.
Okay.
Definitely. I mean, and for a human player, right? If they put too many on, and right, we see it, they put 8 on, we want to call it immediately because robots are going to be coming in and grabbing pixels, and it goes back down below. But they shouldn't have put out as many that they did.
Yeah, that good point. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay, just to clarify, so the penalty counts as soon as you call it, even if those pixels are cleared out?
Yep, later.
Yeah. There's no, oh, I got below 6, it's not a penalty anymore.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, going above 6, it's just right when it happens.
I'm just looking at the score sheet. I'm looking on the score sheet. Isn't there a place on there to enter it? I'm looking.
Penalties?
Yeah. On the scorecard itself as it occurs. I don't think you have to wait until the end to.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you could definitely start putting pluses on the penalty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see a score sheet it must be in the maybe manual one.
It's in the ref. It's in the appendix of the ref manual.
The ref manual. Okay.
But if I'm standing there with a tablet and I'm the scorer, I guess, are there 4 tablets or
No.
only 2 tablets?
4.
There's only 2 tablets.
Wow.
So I mean, like it's definitely helpful for
Super.
penalties if you want to put them as they go. But usually, I mean, we at least want to make sure that we know how many penalties we assessed. Obviously, if it's something like, going over 6, and we definitely want them to know, when it happened, that it happened and assess it, like calling out the penalty is great. But then at the end, we're going to review, okay, what did we give, and make sure that is correct, and make sure it's correct on the tablet.
Okay. So I can visualize. So the 2 tablets, then I guess that's what we did last year too, was 2 tablets, right? 4 scorekeepers, but 2 tablets. Those 2 people, are they going to be at the backboard side, the backdrop, or are they going to be on the wing side?
So they can stand wherever they're most comfortable standing. There's definitely a lot of suggestion. It helped them to be in those corners near the backboards. So they can keep an eye on the backboard as well as watch the scoring on the field. I mean, scoring on the field during autonomous happens at the 2 strikes, but then all the scoring does happen back there except for the drone. But we're all watching for the drone. I mean, there's not a sign. We can stand wherever we feel comfortable and wherever we find is the best. I don't mean to be vague right now. The only reason is because I haven't reffed a match yet, so I'm not sure what I really think are the best places. So we will kind of figure it out as we go to begin the first meet. But there's definitely like the back right and left corner was pretty popular. I was told, the head ref liked standing in the middle of the 2 backboards. I think I will probably still start in the landing zone area and just make sure to get out of it during endgame, and or if anyone has paper airplanes to worry about. Actually, I don't know if you noticed, but I think only like 2 of the 8 robots we just watched even had paper airplanes loaded. So yeah, I mean, we'll kind of, go.
Kind of see. I guess I'm thinking like last year, it was really nice when being on this tablet, I had a referee scorekeeper friend next to me, and we could constantly double check ourselves, double check each other. That was handy. I don't know if we're going to have that much personnel.
Well, no, we should have that much personnel. So I think it won't quite be the same. So one of the things we definitely did last year, and we needed to because of the game, was scoring things as they happened. I don't think that will be quite necessary this year.
I agree. I think it's
really
more the
easy
penalties.
to just score it at the end, and everyone watching for all the penalties and all the keeping all the eyeballs on the field, maybe different areas of the field, especially if the scorekeeping tablet ones are up near the corners, and then the other two, it might be easier to be near the human players, and then we can huddle up at the end for everything that everybody saw. Maybe it is better to have the head or lead ref on that side, maybe, since we'll end up having not necessarily for the entire match, but for the majority of the match, we'll have 6 refs, because we will have 2 on red side, 2 on blue side, the head ref and the super head ref being me. So during the majority of matches, we'll actually have even more, maybe us on each side of the middle. We might be able to do something like that, so we have even more voices and more of us able to see things and report to each other.
Yeah.
So this, so to be sure I'm clear, because last year was my first year that I refed, and I never called any penalties. Like if I saw something, I would tell you, Max, or I would tell whoever that, and that's what I should continue to do. Correct?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, calling it, for the kids to hear, and as we see it, really, except for blocking, they shouldn't necessarily expect to hear it during the match. Like, I mean, it was good to say them out loud when you saw something, and they might hear it or they might not. But I don't focus a lot on trying to call out everything as it happens. Sometimes we see stuff and we're not sure, and we need to talk to each other to make sure we're giving the right call at the end. So yeah, I mean, it's a helpful thing for the kids, but it's not a necessity. Sometimes it makes it easier to keep track, especially for going over pixels, things like that. And again, it's what we saw and what we remember. We're doing the best we can. We're not going to be perfect. Kids have to learn to accept that. And it also, maybe they saw it wrong and we saw it right. So there's all that. That's part of the game. It's part of the experience.
Okay. Hillary, you got any questions?
No, I don't really have any more questions. It's just more of, I just got to get out there and just see how it happens in person. Because I mean, the only way I'm going to really learn for sure is to do it.
Yeah, for sure. But the other thing is you have this fear that it's going to go so fast that you're going to miss a whole bunch of stuff. And it's like, I got to tell you, in the first couple meets, it's not that way at all. So maybe as you get into the season, it gets a little more hectic and things happen faster, but you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Definitely.
We everybody helps each other. So we try and make it all work. And I think we got some good crews this year. So yay.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Good.
Thanks for all the coordinating, Mary. I really appreciate it.
Yep. It's what I do good. One ought to play to your strengths, right?
I agree.
So, okay. Well, if nobody has any other questions, I'm going to wrap and then I'll send this out to everybody so they can see the link, everybody who didn't get a chance to do it already.
Sweet.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, so now I see faces. Yay. We'll see y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
See you this weekend.
Bye, everyone.